Well, it's May 31st. It's fucking hot outside. It is ridiculously, stupidly hot outside, so I'm stuck in here. I'm working on several things. I'm also dehydrated as a fuck, too. I got an update what's going on with the magazine. It's taken a little longer than usual this time because unlike Grindhouse Purgatory where we had, I don't have one on hand. If you read Grindhouse Purgatory, you'll notice that we had a lot of wasted space in the magazine because somebody was lazy. Guess who? It wasn't me. Half pages, 3/4 of pages, not full, stuff like that. So basically, my 100-page magazine wasn't really 100 pages when you really figure it out. So it's coming together. It's slowly but surely, and we're looking at maybe the end of June right now. We want to get this done. We want to get it out for you people that have been waiting patiently to see this, plus a couple other projects. But unfortunately, things occur like what happened last week, and I'm not going to dwell on that. I'm just so happy I never had a kid, and I never had to worry about this fucking terrible shit that's going on. But then again, in this stupid-ass state, in a week or so, anybody can walk around with a gun in their pocket because they got rid of the concealed carry permits and stuff like that. So, yeah, you're just making a fucking situation worse. And all I got to say is there is no earthly reason for anyone to own an assault rifle. That's it. You can do whatever you want, blame it on whatever you want. The blame is within a bunch of people in our government that obviously have been bought and paid for by the NRA. So I'll leave it at that. You can draw your own conclusions. All I know is in November I am voting out any one of these motherfuckers. But unfortunately, again, last week we lost two great actors, Ray Liotta and Bo Hopkins. Ray Liotta passed away in his sleep while shooting a film. I think it was in Santo Domingo or something, somewhere down there. He's only 67 years old. Ray was from Union, New Jersey, and of course his big hit was Goodfellas. He played Henry Hill. Was also in Narc, Field of Dreams, a plethora of really cool roles in cool movies, and one that sort of slipped through the cracks that was filmed down under with Lance Henriksen, Stuart Wilson, and Kevin Dillon, No Escape, sort of a semi-futuristic prison colony on an island which has enough violence and mayhem to keep anybody interested. It's just sad that a great actor like him left us so early. Bo Hopkins, I believe, was 84 years old. I had met him briefly at a Chiller convention. Unfortunately, it was one of those weekends where there was just so many friggin' guests that you really couldn't sit down and bullshit with any one of them because I was on staff. I believe his third film was The Wild Bunch, where he was Crazy Lee, and worked with the greats like William Holden, Ernest Borgnine, Ben Johnson, Warren Oates, and Edmund O'Brien. He was part of that gang, and went on to do a ton of different films, Culpeper Cattle Company, Mutant, the Bud Cardos directed horror film, The Fifth Floor. He was executive producer, and he starred in this interesting gambling film called Shade. Ton of screen credits. I saw him on a YouTube channel called The Word About Westerns, where they were doing a Sam Peckinpah tribute. It was just him and L.Q. Jones, and honestly, Bo didn't look good at all. I think he might have had Parkinson's or something. He was shaking a lot, and he got through the whole thing, and said how great it was to work with all these great actors back then. But sadly, we're losing all those icons of the 60s, 70s, and 80s now. It's just sad to see them gone, but it's part of the reason I do this, to keep the memories alive. So, both of you gentlemen, thank you and rest in peace, and you live on forever through your work. Another thing, sooner or later we're going to hit that poster behind us, that Beast of the Yellow Night creature from the Blue Hand thing, and I'll go into detail about that, because Beast from the Yellow Night is an interesting movie. When I first saw it advertised back in the day, I thought it was another Blood Island thing, and I was a little disappointed, but years later, seeing it a few other times, it's really one of Eddie Romero's more cerebral horror films. But today, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to take you back in time to a film that shook up the world in 1963. Sports money, sorry. Like I say, if you're going to smoke, smoke something good. Anyway, in 1963, Time Films released a film called Mondo Cane, done by, I think it was Jacopetti and Prospero, two Italian guys who traveled the world filming the weirdest shit they could find. It was a shocking film for the 60s. It was the first of many Mondo movies, and coined the phrase of Mondo. Pretty much, they went all over, there was, the Bikini Atoll things, victims of shark attacks, Chinese death houses, and a lot of other really gory and twisted shit that, strangely enough, and I remember this as a kid, and I don't know how far away from 63 it was, but they ran this on Channel 11 for some reason in the metropolitan area, and again, I'm not sure of the year. They might have taken a few things out of it, but basically I sat there and watched this thing, and it had to be late 60s, I gotta say, that they actually ran this fucking thing on TV. And like I say, this was some, twisted shit. There was something, and at the end of it was this thing where basically this tribe, they called it the Cargo Cultists, where they basically, I guess they were in New Guinea or someplace like that, and during World War II they saw these planes fly over and several of them crashed, and they built like shrines to worship these planes. And it's really weird, and there was something else where they only eat like once a year, and you see them slaughtering pigs. And like I said, I'm a young guy watching this shit on television. It's like, oh, this is really fucked up. Well, Jerry Gross, who released it, got a part 2 out of it, because they shot a lot of footage they didn't use, and Jerry talked them into putting together a part 2. And I saw 1 and 2 running at a revival house up in Caldwell, New Jersey, at a place called the Park Theater. So I saw them both on screen. Well, this dynamic duo of Italian filmmakers went to Africa during the uprisings in the Congo and all this other shit, and shot a film called Africa Adito. Now, the uncut version is really hard to watch because of the animal slaughter. There is actual executions in it, and the filmmakers got shit because something leaked out that they might have paid off a firing squad to stall an execution until they could get a better camera angle. But the animal atrocity shit is horrible. Elephants being blown up by hand grenades, the tusks, the baby elephants getting killed, hippos getting shot, bunch of crazy shit. Well, what happened was Jerry Gross took the film, re-edited it down to about 85, 90 minutes, and released it as Africa Blood and Guts. And it went over crazy. With a title like that, how could you not want to see it? And the trailer was, unmerciful. Congolese rebels, Mau Maus, this, that, the other thing. See Africa Blood and Guts. Yeah, it was sick and disturbing, but not as sick and disturbing as their next film would be, Goodbye, Uncle Tom. They wanted to do a time travel back capsule of them going back into the slave trading days. Well, they were going to do this, I think, somewhere in South America, but when the country they were going to do it in, it might have been Brazil, found out that the makers of Africa Adito were headed that way, they turned them around. Well, they found a kindred spirit in Haiti with Papa Doc, who basically let these filmmakers abuse the entire population. And out of respect for black people in general, I am not going to go into details about this. Let's just say that the version I saw managed to offend even me, and I'm not easily offended. Now, there is a lot of speculation to this day as to whether this film was actually released. I know there was a rumor floating around that Canon owned it, but denied they owned it. I never found a review of it playing in a New York theater, and I think, honestly, that if this film had run in a grindhouse, they would have burned the fucking theater to the ground. And that's how offensive and inflammatory this film is. Of course, it's available on DVD like everything else offensive and inflammatory, but that's neither here nor there. But this kicked off the whole Mondo craze. You had Mondo Bolero, hosted by Boris Karloff. You had Mondo Fruto, and what the hell was the other one? There was a bunch of Mondo ones shot by Lee Frost and Bob Cressy. There was two of them, I believe. Mondo Fruto and Mondo Obscenity? I don't know. There's so many of them. There was Mondo Mod, which covered basically, you know, the go-go generation of the 60s and stuff like that, you know, whatever was going on then. There was some narrated by Vincent Price. There was one called Sedissimo. It just kept going on and on for a while, and then, like all, you know, grindhouse genres sort of died out. But the fucked up thing was, it lived on through stuff like bum fights, ghetto brawls on DVD, and reality TV shows are just nothing more than Mondo TV, showing people at their absolute worst. So, you know, there was a whole slew of these. Something Weird had released a couple of them. I believe Mondo Bolero was one. Then there was another one, The Wild World of Jane Mansfield, which was sort of another Mondo movie. She was shooting that while I think Mickey Hargitay was doing Bloody Pit of Horror and Delirium. So there was a whole slew of these out there for a while, but they never, you know, I don't think they ever got into the 70s. I think they, you know, they sort of burned their way out like in the late 60s. Maybe a couple of them got into the early 70s, but then of course you had the VHS Mondo shit, Faces of Death, 1 through 47. And believe it or not, Faces of Death actually ran as a film on 42nd Street. You know, one of the last, you know, holdout, last gasp films that ran there. But yeah, Faces of Death. Then you had Dying, the final seconds of life, which I remember that tape was all bullshit because they clipped footage from Ruggiero Deodato's Last Cannibal World and hit it with sandpaper and told you were seeing real cannibalism. All fake stuff. Then they had, you know, there was a bunch of newsreel footage too. There was one, Death Traces. I think this one was really bad because it had actual execution footage from South America where people were being tossed in the truck and half their fucking heads were blown off and they were still twitching. So you really don't need to see shit like this. But like I said, Mondo Cane in 1963 spawned a whole genre of complete, you know, for lack of better words, sludge. Some sludge is more entertaining than other sludge. You know, some of it just dealt with sex and other things. Okay, there's another one that just popped into my head, which was huge on VHS. Mondo Magic and Shocking Asia, which also ran as features on 42nd Street. And, you know, I remember there was one thing, because I had my video store then, and we ran Mondo Magic, and there was something about blowing smoke into a native woman's vagina to chase the devil out of her and shit like that. I've blown smoke in many vaginas and never chased any devils out of them, so, you know, that's a bunch of bullshit. But then, again, they had the whole thing with the elephants, you know, the elephants being killed, and they had Asian sex museums and shit like that where they had the, you know, sculptured dildos out of ivory and all kinds of crap. I mean, it's an interesting genre if you know, you're into sick and twisted shit. So they're out there. I think somebody just released, it might have been Massacre Video, put either Mondo Magic or Shocking Asia. I think it was Mondo Magic they put out on a Blu-ray or a DVD. But a lot of this stuff, maybe thankfully, hasn't seen the light of day. But I know that Blue Underground at one point had put a box set out of Mondo Cane 1 and 2, Africa Blood and Guts, Goodbye Uncle Tom, and then a documentary about the filmmakers, which I don't know if it's out of print or not, but if you can grab it, it's definitely worth a watch because it sort of sums up all of this stuff a lot better than I could. And you can actually see the actual scummy films in all their high definition glory. So that's all I got for you today. This is 42nd Street Pete. I thank you for subscribing. I thank you for telling your friends, and I thank you for tuning in. Those t-shirts are up at 42P's Sleazy Tees at teespring.com. So actually I get a piece of that, which is good because lately I ain't been getting a piece of anything. Anything, that is. So until next time, we'll see you on the flip side. Stay safe and stay inside where it's cool.